Hello everybody, welcome back to my television review series. Today we'll be discussing Ozark Season 4. So you know how it goes. Overall grade and general impressions about the writing and just presentation of the piece. And then after that, you're going to want to shut off the video if you have not seen Season 4 or would like to see Season 4, because I'll be going over pretty much all of the major plot developments as best as I can remember them. I did not write anything down for this one until after, and after sitting and thinking about the characterizations, wrote down the major plot developments. So then we'll be discussing plot synopsis and character development. Major themes, probably not just a crime drama. So again, I think it was a Netflix exclusive. It had a pretty good buzz around it. If you were to give Season 3, I think I dropped it all the way down to a C. This season, the return, you need military-grade lockdown. You need blackout curtains for every window in your house if you want to watch this show, because again, 70%. Season 3, end of Season 2 and Season 3 was less low-light scenes. Season 4, we're right back to Season 1, where you can't basically see anything. Which is just the dumbest cinematic effect ever. I don't know why anyone does that. It doesn't really add to the ambiance. I'm just trying to watch a show like this. Like, who's that in the background? Who's that odd shape in the background? I can't even see them. So the low light was heavily off-putting. The characterizations of Wendy and of Ruth, again, were weighing on me in Season 3. Every time they delivered a line in Season 4, gave maybe cringe. I think, again, Ruth being the boss bitch doesn't really play well, and Wendy just being emotionally all over the place, and then in delivering her lines is, again, just feels like it's like the writing is just overdone, and the subsequent acting is just like goofy, just like off-putting. So I think I moved Season 3 all the way down to a C. I'll bump this one back up to a B-, just because you get some resolution on the entire series. It's kind of like taking a course in school. Not that I ever go to school, but you know, at the beginning of the year, you're like, oh, look at this big book, I've never seen anything, I can't know it all, and at the end you're like, oh, I know everything in the book, kind of. Well, it's kind of like that with watching TV, and again, I watch these things to make content, not just to sit down and relax. So it's like, maybe the last season gives me a little more resolution just because I don't have to watch another season of it. So it's pretty overall neutral, but I bumped it up to a B-, just off-putting, but not off-putting, but barely entertaining. But really didn't do much for me, but just some resolution and some more action and drama because the season was over. So overall, low lights, scenes off-putting, and the characterizations of Wendy and Ruth were really off-putting to me in general. Marty's pretty good. Jason's Bateman character, I mean, he's just more level-headed throughout, so he's just more believable. Charlotte and Jonah are fine. Omar and Camila Navarro, I guess it might not be Camila Navarro, but they were fine. Javi was fine. Rachel was alright. Wyatt was fine. Maya she was alright. P.I. Mel, we get introduced this season, he was alright. Everybody else, again, just the really off-putting ones were Ruth and Wendy for the characterizations. So those are my overall thoughts and impressions. Now getting into the plot synopsis, and you're going to turn it off if you want to see the show and have no spoiler alerts. So first off, Navarro wants Wendy and Marty to protect his legitimate assets and movement between Mexico and the USA. So basically, Omar, who runs the Navarro cartel, he basically wants out, but he's obviously a known mass murdering drug kingpin, so he might not be too easy to strike a deal with the FBI. So basically, this season, that's kind of like the big goal of the season, and Wendy's working through her foundation to basically get him off this thing where it's like, he gets arrested throughout the season, which we'll discuss, but to get him off this SDN list, or basically, if he's in an American prison, he can't escape, but if they can get him extradited to Mexico, then they can pay off people and get him to escape. So that's really what she's doing throughout the season, as well as Marty is trying to shore up the finances, because he says if they can get this done, they have satisfied their obligations to Navarro. So that's really kind of like the goal of the season. Wendy continues expansion with the Bird Foundation. She works a lot with Jim Rattlesdorf, and again, this is where, again, like the overall plot developments is basically like Wendy's she wants to have this foundation and do all these good things throughout the Midwest. So it's like chasing the political career, and then just basic crime drama, and then just like shitty personal interactions throughout the season. So it's basically like, again, your average American sitting at home, crime in the background, and then just emotional drama, which drives me fucking bonkers. So chasing a political career, anything with politics, like I said when I was watching The Wire, that stuff just drives me absolutely insane. So right off the get-go, that plot development is just like, oh sweet, shoot me in the head. Send Nelson after me. But she works with Shaw Medical supplying raw materials and doesn't want to re-elections. So you meet Claire Shaw, who owns a big pharmaceutical company. Basically, I think there was one of the you meet Omar's nephew Javi this season, and basically he's a captain in the cartel. Omar's the boss, El Jefe, and Omar kind of knows Javi's plotting to take over. So that was kind of an interesting angle for a little bit. Doesn't play out again. Doesn't develop as I thought it would. But they're transporting heroin, or one of the gun shipments gets seized, and so there's some interruption about the supply of heroin throughout the season. But the Shaw Medical, I don't even know if that's directly related, but basically Marty finds the financials of this company who's basically going to go underwater. Claire is a kind of, I don't know, 35, 45-year-old lady running like her family owned Shaw Medical or something, but she's like the family before, or her parents or her brother didn't run it properly, and she's trying to do it correctly, but they run out of. Marty basically says, your company's going underwater. We can supply the raw materials for your opiates with the poppies. So originally they're using the cartel to supply the heroin, the raw heroin that the Shaw Medical needs, and it's indistinguishable from their legal sources, but to keep the company from going underwater. In doing so, they're going to need a $150 million donation to the Bird Foundation to do these good things that they want to do. So that's kind of going on in the background, and doesn't want to rig elections. And Wendy's working with Jim Rattlesdorf, Charlie Wilkes' lawyer, and basically he's trying to get against assembling a board to have the right political connections to get this thing going. And one of the guys they need to get Omar off this do not extradite list. He's not been arrested yet, but as they need some Senator Schaefer or something. And to do so, I guess Senator Schaefer's son has developed this algorithm to rig elections. And so, in return for helping getting Omar off this list, this senator wants Wendy and Marty to implement this voting rigging system in like Wisconsin and Ohio or something, some Midwestern states. And so that angle is just mind-numbingly stupid to me. Again, any political developments just rip my head off. But they really don't want to rig elections. I mean, they're in season 4 of death, murder, killing, drug cartels, seen it all, but we don't want to rig elections. That's where we draw the line, and now we're going back to being really good people. Oh, okay, whatever. Okay. So again, just weak plot development. Jonah launders money for Ruth at the Lazy O Motel. So Ruth uses her money, gets a business loan, buys the Lazy O, which is where she originally worked when they stole Marty's money at the very beginning when they first come to the Ozarks in season 1. And Jonah distances from Wendy and the family. Again, Ben was killed at the end of season 3, which was Wendy's brother and Jonah's uncle. And Jonah's taken that really hard, so he's this season mostly staying at the Lazy O Motel, laundering money for Ruth. And Ruth is now working. Remember, Wyatt is sleeping. He's like 17 or 18. He's now shacking up with probably about late 60s, 70-year-old Darlene, who killed her husband. And so they kind of work together, Jonah, Ruth, Wyatt, and Darlene throughout the season to launder the money of the heroin trade through the Lazy O Motel. Wyatt wants to leave Darlene, then marries her to protect Zeke. So again, I don't know I don't know if the bedroom was going south with Darlene or what, but I think it was just Darlene was too crazy because in one of the scenes, Ruth has some high rollers from the casino come into the Missouri Belle. She's banned from the casino now because the Birds have distanced Ruth. But the Birds let her in to gamble, and one of the high rollers overdoses on heroin. And for whatever reason, Ruth takes the car with the driver of the person that overdosed, and Darlene just blows away the driver right away. So Wyatt and Ruth have to bury a couple bodies this season. Wyatt's not too thrilled about that. But then he also, I forget what exactly happened, but basically Darlene owes Frank Cosgrove Sr. some money. Frank Cosgrove comes into and these are not in order, these are just major plot developments, comes into Darlene's house and starts lipping off, just like season 1 when Del Rio called her a hillbilly and got his blown off. Frank Cosgrove takes a 12 gauge right to the chest. So Frank Cosgrove Sr. is no longer in the picture. So Ruth tells Frank Cosgrove Jr. about it, but they're both now in this season. In last season, Ruth and Cosgrove Jr. were not on good terms. Now they're kind of friendly and working together in some scenarios here. But Wyatt literally is planning to break up with Darlene, goes to break up with her, literally sees that Wendy had Child Protective Services come by Darlene's house and like repossess or take back Zeke, who was the kid Darlene had cut out of a woman's stomach in season 1 or 2. So again, Darlene's trying to be this great mother, Wendy's trying to take over the world, Wyatt's like, I'm gonna leave, walks in there, and then he proposes, basically so, if there's a father in the house or a male figure, and then they'd be able to get the son back. So they marry her, and then right after the wedding, Ruth couldn't make it to the wedding, they come back from the wedding, and Javi, earlier in the season, again, that's the captain for Omar, Sheriff Nix comes looking for Helen, who was killed at the very end of season 3, finds Javi, so Javi just whacks Nix immediately. So Javi, Marty, and Wendy get rid of Nix's body in their crematorium, and Jonah sees it occur. So Sheriff Nix is quickly out of the picture, but Javi, he's told that, and I quote, I think, the hillbilly bitch to stop producing poppy seeds, because again, the cartel doesn't want poppies next to their legitimate assets. That's the whole goal, is to get out of the illegitimate trades. And so Javi just pulls up, and right when they get back from the wedding, he shoots Darlene in the chest, and he's like, and whoever you are, sorry, and then shoots Wyatt in the head. So Ruth, so Wyatt is now dead. But so now Ruth is on a tear to kill Javi. We talked about the chef overdosing. Darlene murks the driver. Disrespect. Blah blah blah. Oh, Darlene has a heart attack this season. I don't know. Confronting Wendy at her house, she has a heart attack, and there's definitely a moment where Wendy's like, "Oh, should I call the cops or just let her die off?" Ends up calling the ambulance, and Darlene was in the hospital for a little bit before the wedding. And then Ruth works with Frank Jr. What they do is basically, the new sheriff is suspicious of Ruth, so he has her followed. He thinks he's going to go, working with Darlene, thinking that she's going to go pick up a bunch of heroin. She drives a U-Haul truck as a decoy. They all arrest her, or pull her over, and in the back of the car it's just Wyatt's stuff. And at the same time, Frank Cosgrove Jr. and the Kansas City mob, they're loading up the heroin from Darlene's place and moving it out. And so they sell it to, again, because the FBI throughout here, basically, again, they raid one of the, to start getting a deal, Omar starts giving information about the cartel's movements. So Omar's literally feeding the FBI like shipments of when drugs or money or cash are coming through. The FBI really just wants the cash seizures. Javi is now on edge because one of the gun raids gets hit and sees Maya, the FBI agent Marty's working with, there. And so to keep the Shaw medical deal and to keep that $150 million for the Bird Foundation, they need heroin from somewhere else, so they buy it raw from Ruth and Darlene and Frank Cosgrove Jr. So that's kind of like why they're getting heroin, and Marty's buying it from them. They sell it to somebody else and he buys it for like $100K more to each person. So that's like an intermittent when the drugs stop coming from Mexico because of the gun raid, they buy some from Darlene and Ruth and that crew. So Maya ambushes Navarro after making a deal with the FBI. So again, they all meet, and it's basically the deal's like, the FBI is like, Omar, you can stay on, or you have to stay on as the head of the cartel for 5 years, feed us everything you can possibly feed us, and after that, you'll serve 3 years in prison, and then, be sent somewhere, or, be able to move freely like you want. So they all agree, they're all fine. Maya's not thrilled with that, and so they all agree to the deal, the FBI, the Birds, and the Navarro cartel. And then literally as they're leaving, Maya has Omar arrested. So they're dealing with like the deputy director of the FBI, and Maya's just an agent. So to me, that would make no sense as a plot development of how an insubordinate officer could go over top of like the head of the FBI and have a big arrest happen. That just seemed like made no sense to me whatsoever. So that was kind of like what. But now Navarro is now in jail, and Camila, you meet Camila this season. Marty goes down to Mexico to run the cartel, basically check out all the books and see who betrayed him. Camila, his sister, attempts to have Omar killed in jail and fails. She suspects that it was him who had Javi killed, Javi was killed by Ruth. Basically, Ruth's on a tear, ambushes a meeting in Chicago between Javi, Shaw Medical, and the Birds, and Ruth pops him right in the chest, and he's now dead. So Camila suspects Omar to be the person who killed her son, so she's trying to get back at him and take over the cartel. But the stabbing attempt fails. Basically, the dude shanks him in jail. He reverse Uno cards him and chokes him out and kills him. So Navarro's injured but not dead. He's in a coma for a little bit, then wakes back up. But then he tells Camila that he didn't kill Javi, and that Ruth killed Javi after he killed Darlene and Wyatt. So it's not clear to me. It's very clear when Camila thinks Omar killed her brother or her son as to why she wants him to die. But then she ends up killing him again ends up killing him at the end of the season. But it's not clear as to why she'd want to kill him when she definitively learns that it's not Omar who had Javi killed. So that's kind of a question mark. I guess it's just a pure power play. She just wants to run the cartel or something now, which is, again, another just kind of question mark in the plot development and characterization. But Omar, he doesn't die till the actual last episode, but he dies. But throughout the season, Marty and Wendy debate telling Omar that Camila was the one that tried to have him killed, because knowing that they would take him out of the picture. So they're kind of this balancing act of, whatever we can feed to the FBI to get us out of this is what we're going to do. So Javi kills Sheriff Nix. We talked about that. Ruth inherits all of the Snell land and refuses to help Marty wander. So after Wyatt marries Darlene, Ruth is the next of kin for Wyatt. So Ruth now becomes the largest landowner in Missouri. So she becomes very wealthy pretty much overnight. She works with Rachel a little bit just to get back at the Birds. Rachel comes back in the picture, the chick who owns the Blue Cat, and they refuse to launder money with Marty. Basically, with Darlene's piece, and then they buy out Charles Wilkes' piece, but they now have majority ownership of the Missouri Belle Casino, which was the first casino or the second casino they have. So, but again, this is the one thing, this is the only business that Omar wants stuff laundered through to keep everything else legitimate elsewhere. And so Ruth refuses to do that. Nelson threatens her. Again, Ruth, being the boss bitch that she is just refusing. And again, when you're balls deep with the cartel, I doubt you're going to be like this boss bitch all of the fucking time. But she lips off and just refuses to launder money. And again, the damn well will get you killed instantly. So it's not even an interesting plot development. But Nelson threatens Rachel, and then Ruth sees that she's being followed quickly after refusing to launder. So Rachel goes up, and Ruth lives in a little trailer park, not in a trailer park, but just a couple trailers around in this kind of remote area. So Rachel's staying with Ruth. She goes up on the roof. They see Nelson coming. Ruth is not there. Rachel goes up on the roof. The instant Nelson gets out of the car, Rachel kills Nelson, who is the main hit guy for the Navarro cartel up until now. So we got bodies dropping left and right in the final season. But again, it's a weak development. Obviously, the cartel in this show is going to come trying to kill you if you refuse to launder the money, which is the whole point of the entire show. A PI investigates Helen and Ben's death. So you meet private investigator Mel. He's searching around the entire time. He comes to the birdhouses a lot. Can't find anything on Helen. And then gets hired by Nathan Davis, who is Wendy's father. The relationship between Wendy and Nathan is just toxic as fuck, and it's just again, broken family drama. And again, their eyes get all wide, and they're trying to deliver these harsh lines, and they're just actors and actresses, and it just doesn't do anything for me as a consumer. So their relationship throughout the thing is pretty weak. But Nathan Davis is kind of like a drunk churchgoer who's condescending to his daughter, and basically tries to get the kids back, and does. So he basically he kind of figures out what's going on, realizes that Ben is dead through PI Mel. He gets all the pictures of Nelson walking into the restaurant where Wendy's leaving, and basically it's like Jonah and Charlotte should come live with me. So they go to court for a little bit. They get Wendy and Marty have PI Mel not even show up to court. It was the main witness for all of this stuff by just trying to get his job back. Again, he's a PI, used to be a cop. They get him a job offer as a cop, so hopefully he leaves. He does leave, but then the judge basically rules, Charlotte's almost 18 and Jonah's 15, so they're old enough to choose. So the court lets the Charlotte and Jonah pick. So they pick to go with Nathan Davis. And then basically Wendy's like, she like checks herself into a rehab facility, and again the whole kids drama is just another family drama in the background of crimes, like boring as fuck. But they win him over, and then basically like Marty has Ruth threaten Nathan Davis, like pulls a gun on him and is like, you're not going to take the kids or something, whatever. I think Wendy even offers him $2 million, and basically Ruth gets Nathan to admit that he just wants to fuck over Wendy. So then the kids, I guess, return back to Marty and Wendy once they hear that. So Marty goes to Mexico to cover for Navarro. We talked about that a little bit, but he kills the wrong dude. So they're trying to figure out who again, just general checking the books and who betrayed Omar after he gets stabbed in prison. But like the head lieutenant, I think it's Cabrera. Marty has him killed because his books are out of order, and then he tortures him until he admits to sending the hit. And then later on, they learn it was Camila. So kills the wrong dude, and that's kind of a plot development. So final scene is Omar dying. Well, not the final scene, but like the last 5 minutes of the show. So Rachel kills Nelson, Camila kills Omar, and Ruth and Jonah kills Omar and Ruth. So Camila, once they have this big foundation thing, like a fundraiser or this thing, to get all these political people for Wendy's big political advances. And Camila confronts Claire, and Claire, Shaw, Saul, Ruth kill Javi. So Claire admits that to Camila what happened. So Camila goes to Ruth and shoots her and kills her. So Ruth is now dead. The only surviving Langmore is 3. He plays a minor role throughout the entire season. And Jonah kills the PI, and that's the absolute final scene of the series. So the PI puts together, again, Ruth has Ben's ashes. Again, they dated for 2 months, and now it's this weighty, terrible psychological weight on Ruth's shoulders. But he keeps the ashes in the cookie jar of a goat, because Ben said he wanted to raise some goats. So the PI realizes he meets with Ruth a couple times and asks her about the cookie jar. He finds the cookie jar and realizes that it's Ben. So again, he's got like bone and ash and teeth still in the remains. So he's like, oh, I'm just going to take this and have, you guys get arrested for murder. And then Jonah, literally, the screen blacks out and you hear a shotgun blast after Jonah pulls up on the PI. So the last kind of thing is Jonah killing the PI Mel. They also get a car accident this season. It's kind of the first scene of the season, but doesn't really have much consequence. So at the end, you have Camila alive, running the cartel, the birds doing their thing, all the Langmores besides 3 dead. And yeah, that's about it. We have Father Benitez. He's just like again your token priest in a cartel land. So those are really the main developments throughout the season. So again, overall B-. I would have given a C if there was another season, because it didn't really do anything for me. But you had some resolution to the entire series, and I watched this stuff to make content. So B-. So thank you for watching my review of Ozark Season 4. See you next time.